I am a poet. My words upon your lips. I will make you romantic while you make me handsome.
She lost me! I give anything for someone to say all the words I don't have and I can't put together. I give anything.
Speak to me like you do in your letters.
You are a beautiful flower.
I am not a flower. I need more.
She's all I can think about, and I can't live without her. I give anything. You're in love with her. Someone to say.
My fate is to love her from afar.
We must let her decide our fate. She must have the choice.
Thank you so much for being here. Congratulations on a beautiful movie. Whenever I have people as accomplished as any of you, I actually like to go back to the beginning and ask, what was your first job in this business? The first time you felt you could call yourself an actor or call yourself a writer? And let's start with Erica, because you do many things.
I was an intern in a costume shop.
No way.
Yeah.
For anything fun or like?
Fun. Oh, you mean the show?
Yeah.
Summer stock.
That's so cool. Oh my gosh, you must have worked with so many talented people.
Yes.
Haley, for you?
The first job, sorry, we are all very jet lagged, so this is why we're dragging. I guess the first job, I can say, I felt like I was an actor, was called Music and Lyrics.
Woo!
Even though I begged them not to give me the job in my audition, because I ended up just bursting out in tears in front of Hugh Grant and Drew Barrymore because I was so starstruck. And I was like, I had to learn a dance the day before I went to the audition in New York. And I went to this choreographer's house that I'd never met before. And he taught me this dance where I had to grind on the floor. So I was attempting to do this in front of Hugh and Drew. And that's when the tears started coming. And I was like, I'm so sorry. I can't. I should just go back to Ohio. And I was actually on my way back when I got a call from Eileen Starger, I think her name is, the casting director. And she said, can you just come and try to learn to dance with the choreographer for a few hours? And then I was eventually cast and moved to New York, and yes.
Do you think the crying helped, or?
Possibly. Must have, because the dancing was not very good.
Peter, what about for you? What's the first time you felt you could call yourself an actor?
Well, I can tell you about the last regular job I had that convinced me I couldn't do that anymore and needed to be an actor desperately, or anything but that regular, normal job. But that's a very boring story. First film, Living in Oblivion, which was sort of lucky. Oh, thanks. Lucky one to have coming out of the gates, like Haley, working with some really cool people, and just didn't realize, I remember not realizing cut meant cut. I didn't know anything. Movie actors did all this stuff, and they yelled cut, and perhaps they thought I was method because I was still doing the scene off camera, and I thought it was more like theater or something. I was very confused about the whole rules and everything, but I learned pretty quickly. Yeah, cut. I didn't. Why is everybody walking away? I didn't really understand it. Anyway.
Usually people start off with like a McDonald's commercial, and your very first jobs.
I know
were
it sounds
movies.
a little bit indie and pompous, but hey,
no,
it's
I
true.
do remember going to a toothpaste commercial before I got Music and Lyrics, and I have really crooked, bad teeth. And everyone there, this was in Hollywood, and everyone there had really perfect and shiny teeth. And I was like, oh, this is what what your teeth have to look like to be an actor. But I proved them wrong.
Joe, what about for you? What do you sort of consider your first job in this business?
Well, I started out busking.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I started out busking in Covent Garden in London. I was a magician at the age of 11, and I called myself the Great Kazam. And I wore a tailcoat, and like the green corduroy flares that I wore normally, but a tailcoat, and did illusions. And I asked my mum if I could keep doves in the house, because a magician needs doves, and she said no, and I was indignant, for stopping my creativity. But anyway, I cut out some pieces of white satin fabric and sewed them together, and then stuffed them with terylene and put a little fake beak on the nose, and then I Velcroed the doves to my shoulder and had a little string that went down my arm like that. And so the dove, I used to pull the string and the dove would go like that and give away the trick. And also I had a pigeon made of grey cotton who used to die. And I used to make quite a lot of money as well, like £30 a day.
Why did you give it up? I mean, I'm glad things worked out the way they did, but...
I don't think he has given
I
it
don't
up,
think he has.
No, I did.
Same.
This guy called Ken Livingstone, who later became the mayor of London, but he took over something called the GLC, which is the Greater London Council, and he decreed that no one under 16 was allowed to busk.
You're kidding.
Which I was desperate. It took away my audience, and I tried kids' parties and stuff, but I felt like the audience didn't quite get me. So that was when I picked up a Super 8 camera and started making short films.
That's amazing. Can you still do any kind of sleight of hand?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not expecting you to pull a dove
And
out
here
now.
we are, all of us weirdos. Like, I wish we would have known each other all then.
Right, that's amazing.
That would have been interesting.
Well, here you are with a beautiful adaptation of Cyrano, and I actually want to start with Erica. Would you rather I not? It's okay. No, but you originally adapted this from, obviously, the Edmund Rostand play. What was it about this particular work? It's my favorite play of all time, but I would love to know what interested you in it and made you want to do it, without, per se, the nose, and also as a musical.
Well, I love the play very much, and I, was sort of curious about it and had some questions. And one was about the main character and the nose in the Rostand play. The character of Cyrano spends a lot of time talking about his really large nose, and feeling that is what makes him unlovable. And I just wondered what it would be like if we just never knew what it was that he felt made him physically unattractive. And then I was also really interested in the character of Roxanne, and I wondered what it would be like if she had a little more agency. There's an amazing French production of this play where in the balcony scene, the characters of Christian and Cyrano are talking to Roxanne on the balcony, and they just wheel the balcony out from under her, and she like floats in this sky. And it's so beautiful, but to me it was kind of the whole problem with the piece, which is that she doesn't even have legs to stand on. When she finds out she's been duped for 15 years, she doesn't get angry, she doesn't say why, she doesn't kind of demand that she be given her life back. And so I was curious what would happen if she did. And these were just, questions I had kind of alone at my desk, thinking about it as a theater piece. And then I really wanted it to be through composed and sort of cinematic, ironically. And so I approached the band, the National, and asked if they would write the music and songs. And originally we thought it would just be, there's 5 acts in the Rostand play, and we thought it would just be 1 song per act. And we just started working on it. And then we did a workshop with Peter and Haley, and Joe saw it, and then he wanted to make a film of it.
Wow. Joe, what interested you specifically in this adaptation of Cyrano and doing a musical?
I'd always wanted to do a musical since I saw, well, maybe Cabaret, but in particular, Lars von Trier's Dancer in the Dark. I kind of was really interested in the idea of a musical that wasn't like musicals. So I'd been drawn to that idea, and then Hayley invited me to see the workshop they did up in Chester, Connecticut, and I was just really struck by Peter and Hayley's the relationship between the two, and how emotional the play was. And I think that the casting of Peter in that role just had a kind of immediacy and an authenticity and that you as Erica talks about as well. You with other Cyranos, you feel like with the nose, you feel like the actor can kind of at the end of the night take off his nose and go to the bar and chat up Roxanne and whatever and I just found the whole thing incredibly emotional.
Yeah. And Peter, Cyrano is one of the greatest characters ever created, I feel, for stage or screen. Had he been a dream role for you, or you'd never even considered maybe, playing this character?
No, I never considered it. Probably on a personal level, and this is just me, obviously, it's sort of speaking to what Joe just mentioned. Yeah, it always was a really handsome actor and a fake nose, and I sort of didn't know my way into it. And I know it's a beautifully written piece, but until Erica had stripped it down to its bare essentials, kept the heart, but got rid of the nose. Oh, I see what I did there. That was unintended, but thank you. The kneecaps remained, but the heart, no. It just suddenly spoke to me. But she didn't write it. My size is not a substitute, at least in the original production. And with the film, we had to sort of embrace the reality of the time that Cyrano lives in. My size is not a substitute for the nose. I think getting rid of the nose makes it reach to all of us, because there is a theatricality to the nose. And I think it was probably really fun and irreverent when Rostand wrote this 120 years ago to have an actor on stage with this fake nose, and you could, it was something probably really interesting and exciting and new. But this is the time we're living in now, and what gets right to our heart perhaps isn't a handsome actor and a fake nose, so it just suddenly spoke to me in that way. And then obviously the music, having these sort of, no offense, but long-winded monologues about love. That, people used to go to the theater and they get out of the cold and they're there for 5 hours. They don't care how long it is, but we have cell phones now and places to go and people to see. And for some reason, it shouldn't be, but our time is more limited, but the 24 hours are still in a day. But we have less patience for that. So what Erica did about asking the National to do these love songs in place of these monologues, it just makes it, it moves the piece much more quickly forward, and music is our heartbeat, and it's more forgiving. You can listen to a love song all day, but hearing your friend talk about love, not so much maybe. So anyway, that really, having very little patience myself, that really spoke, and having less lines to learn, it really spoke to me.
Forgive me for not knowing, because I know Hayley has been a professional singer, has a beautiful voice for years.
Yeah, and I haven't been.
Okay. But you do. You sound beautiful in this. Did you have to train, or is
Let's not put a spotlight on the differences between our voices, shall we?
No, I mean, like, everyone I know who has seen this movie is like, I didn't know Peter Dinklage could sing like that. Did you have to train specifically for this movie, or have you always had that talent? You're looking at me like you're not a good singer.
He
You're a good
sings.
singer.
Who are you talking to,
Always.
Haley?
You.
Oh, obviously you're talking to me. Sorry. Well, I was the Pirate King in Pirates of Penzance in high school.
Oh.
No, I mean, sorry to take over this Q&A, but I am. No, what I learned about, you just got to overcome your fears and then dive off the cliff, and acting, there's a lot of that you need to do when you're an actor, and this was something I had never sung in a movie before. Not many actors have. All right, given the opportunity, I'll jump at the opportunity. But the key was not to pretend to be a singer you weren't. Just to sing from whatever soul you have, and sing as yourself. Because Matt Berninger, who's the singer and lyricist for The National, has probably one of my favorite voices, if not my favorite voice, in music today. I'll never sound like him. We have the same similar baritone register, but I'll never sound like him. And I had to stop listening to him, to stop doing an imitation of him. Because we all sound like Aretha Franklin in the shower.
Right.
Or Stevie Wonder or Freddie Mercury, but we're not. And until you come to terms with that, that's what sets you free.
Matt sings the closing song, doesn't he? Oh, yeah, he does. He has a
Yeah,
beautiful
it's
voice.
definitely not me.
Haley, for you, this might be my favorite portrayal ever of Roxanne, because I have seen so many versions where I don't relate to her as much, and I find her to be incredibly compelling and sympathetic. What interested you? Was it specifically that you wanted to play Roxanne? Was it this script? What really drew you to this part?
Well, I was living in New York, and I really wanted to get involved in theater because I had never done it before. And then I asked my agent, would you please think of me if there's an opportunity to, bring someone their coffee. And then very shortly after that, I received a call from my agent saying, oh, hey, yeah, there's a new play, a new musical that's being developed by Erica Schmidt, and Peter Dinklage is playing Cyrano, and they'd love for you to come just read for a week with the National. I was like, wow, this is an incredible opportunity. I had no idea what to expect. And in that week, I just had the most incredible time with Erica and Pete and Aaron, and it just felt like we had all bonded in a really special way, and they accepted me for my fencing costumes that I wore frequently. And it was just this really lovely way to take risks and just a very beautiful rehearsal environment, and loved these guys. And then I fell in love with the character then, and then Eric asked me to do the play in Connecticut.
Similar to how much I love Roxanne in this movie, I think that this is my favorite portrayal of Christian I've ever seen, because frankly he's usually kind of portrayed as just a dullard, and I really found him compelling in this. I'm curious, was that like a conscious effort you made to not just give Roxanne agency, but Christian as well?
Well, I love Christian. I feel like he's the only one with a moral conscience in the piece, and he's he doesn't prioritize letters and books and poetry the way that these two characters do, but he's he's a soldier, and he's caught up in this triangle, and he sacrifices himself in the end because he can't bear to think of Roxanne being unhappy, and he can't bear to go on with the betrayal, and I find that so noble. When we did the play, I thought I really thought that it's so stupid, but I thought that I was inventing something, that Christian was going to kill himself. I thought, I think I really found something in the text. I've looked at all the extant versions, and I think he should kill himself. And then I saw the famous French production, and he stood with his arms out like Christ, and red roses fell from his chest as he fell back. And I thought, oh yeah, it's true. It's just true. That's what he does. But I think Kelvin is so beautiful in the role. I don't know if you want to talk about
Joe, we had Kelvin here a few weeks ago, and he talked about kind of being surprised that you reached out to him. What made you think? I mean, I've seen him sing in the high note, and I know he's a fantastic actor. But what made you think of him for this role?
I'd seen Waves, and I thought he was extraordinary in that. And I was looking for someone who could convey a sense of openness and trust and innocence. And when, when Cyrano tells him something, he believes him immediately. He doesn't try and look for ulterior motives or second guess anyone. And Kelvin's kind of like that, really.
Yeah.
He seemed like the guy with the heart.
Mm-hmm. So much of this film obviously hinges on chemistry, and I don't just mean between Cyrano and Roxanne. It's Roxanne and Christian and Cyrano, who actually have this beautiful relationship. The two of you got to work together, obviously, in the stage production. Was that chemistry pretty instantaneous, or do you find that that's
Chemistry in film between actors is a myth.
Really?
Yeah.
Now you have made
it doesn't exist.
Yeah. Okay.
It's based on respect.
What are you saying here?
It's based on respect. If you have two actors who admire each other's talent and ability and skill, then they'll have a chemistry because they'll match each other and then keep climbing. If you have an actor who doesn't really think the other actor is much good, then they won't have any chemistry at all. It just comes from a kind of respect of the craft more than anything.
You ever had to work with actors that didn't have that chemistry?
Yeah.
What do you do?
Try and cut around it.
Well, Haley and Peter.
I won't say which film.
I'm going through the Rolodex. Haley and Peter, I mean, did you find that you sort of fell into this relationship pretty naturally? I'm assuming having respect for each other.
Well, we had the benefit of the stage production, which sort of the rehearsal process, which you're not often granted with films because they're perhaps unnecessary or indulgent, or you have actors who think they're useless because it's a film and it kills spontaneity in the moment. But with this, which there's a modicum of truth to that, but I also love rehearsals because they develop that familiarity, and I think that's why a lot of directors have them in the first place. But with the play, and then also with this, we had to do a lot of rehearsals in terms of everything. So it really helps because it's work, and it's not. You get right into it, and you find you develop a rhythm together.
Yeah.
You don't suddenly try to match each other's rhythm or any of that. In the movie, you just develop it. It becomes, you just sort of raise each other up as you go along in the rehearsal process. And then we got to do it again for the film, which is really nice. It's great. Haley's an amazing listener. She's right there with you. And as Joe said, it's all about that. It's respecting who you're working with and listening to them and them making you a better actor as well. It's just, and Kelvin and I had that, and Ben and I have that. It's all about that. You're only as good as the actor you're working with, truly.
I mean, and also because this is such an open-hearted film, just that getting to know someone and being able to allow yourself to be seen and, not feel shy, or, if I'm breathing snot down Pete's mouth, I'm not going to, it's going to be, oh, sorry, Pete, there's some snot, and and it's going to be okay, you know. And he has such a good sense of humor about everything, which makes him really, really easy to work with. Yeah.
I'm curious, you can do, as actors, all this preparation, you can learn your lines. What is it like to actually step on the set with this stunning production design and put on those costumes? How much does that actually help you finally lock into that character? And did you keep any of your costumes? Because I would have kept them all. Did you really? Good on you.
It was really an incredible experience working with Jacqueline Duran and Massimo because they were so incredibly collaborative. And, you know, if I thought, oh, I think Roxanne should have a bird in her hair, and then we could have long discussions about why Roxanne should have a bird in her hair. And even with Sarah Greenwood, you know, I would have dreams about foxes. And then the next day I would come to set and there would be foxes painted on the walls. And so all of a sudden I felt like I was living, you know, I was living in my imagination, and whatever the manifestation of that became real and ended up in the costumes and on the set. So that was that was the first time I've ever experienced anything like that, where everyone is speaking the same cinematic language, and then that ends up in the film.
Mm-hmm. Peter, for you, I don't think you can wear a soldier's uniform and not have it not change your attitude to some degree.
Right.
And carrying a sword.
Well, rare am I called upon to play a soldier. But when it's a musical, everybody can be a soldier. Truly, though, it's kind of what Joe sets up so beautifully in Erica's story. It is a movie, and you bend the rules, and it's what I kind of love. A 52-year-old guy my size who is respected in the military. You don't see that really much, and that's what I loved about it, and the costumes and all of that. It had this beautiful sense, like Haley was saying, of just transporting you there and into what we do for a living, which is pretend, and it's very heightened when you're in a military costume singing songs on a volcano.
That's right, you shot us. This is funny, I was just going to ask for each of you what ended up being the most challenging scene or moment, you know, something, Erica, that you did in the adaptation that maybe you struggled with the most. But then I heard you shot on an active volcano, and I sort of feel like
I just told you that 30 seconds ago.
See, I'm listening. And I sort of feel like that blows everything away. And did it go off at one point?
Yeah, on the last day.
What?
Yeah, we were. I kind of wanted a strong contrast to the town of Noto, where we shot most of the movie, which was this kind of honey-coloured stone and sort of baroque lusciousness, and so there was Mount Etna. So that was obviously the place where we should shoot the battle. And it was this black, you know, sand and rock. And that was exciting. And so we built a set at 16,000 feet where the air was very, very thin, right up by the summit. And we're told that it wasn't going to snow till February, so that was all right. We were there in December. And then about 4 or 5 days before we started shooting, the snow came down and buried the set and the camera platform and the 100-foot techno crane. And so that was inaccessible. So we had to move. We had to find a new place to shoot, which then was about 8,000 feet. And we shot with a tripod only because we'd buried the crane. And that was probably the most challenging experience of my career. And then on the last day, the volcano erupted, and we picked up our camera cases and ran off.
We're laughing because you're okay, but at the time, was it terrifying?
Yeah, it was a bit. It was worrying. Yeah, no, it was.
It's
it
so
was
British.
worrying. As Pete says, it's not the actual lava you worry about, it's the projectile rocks that the volcano flies out. And
Do you have footage of any of this? Because you could make a whole
no,
other movie.
we were running.
Okay,
we weren't
right.
filming.
Okay, aside from the volcano.
Very Sicilian approach to that volcano. She's all right. She's all right. It's the earthquakes you got to worry about.
Aside from the exploding volcano, for each of you, what ended up being, the scene that you probably spent the most time with? And let's start with Erica. I know you were trying to avoid eye contact, so I wouldn't call on you, but
I was. The play version was, I had taken the Rostand play and made it really small, like cut from 30 actors down to just 10, and really focused on the Christian Cyrano Roxanne relationship. And Joe really wanted to return to the Rostand, to the first act being really big, which is the theater act. And meeting all of the echelon of society, and pageantry and Baroque. The stage play was kind of modern dress, so that was a big challenge, trying to figure out how to keep what Joe had liked from what I had done, but then also honor Rostand, and then also kind of grow it back up. Again, there are two huge set pieces in the Rostand play, the ballad that he composes while he's dueling Valverde, and then also the nose speech, which is very famous and hugely long, and I had cut entirely. So that was like a big struggle and juggling act.
Haley, for you?
I think probably the balcony scene, because, there's the worry. I mean, and obviously past Roxannes have been massively, deceived, and, he's speaking for Christian and his voice sounds different, and, me, and, I go like, well, obviously she would know that it was him that was speaking for, she knows, if she knows Cyrano so well, then why doesn't she know that that's his voice? That was always kind of a tricky thing for me. And so I guess it's something that I was interested in when developing the character and thinking about the relationship between Cyrano and Roxanne, like how much did Roxanne know or not know, and how can we veer from, everything we know about Roxanne and about her being kind of duped or fooled? What if she did know that it was him? And what does that say about her and her resistance to allowing herself to, believe this lie? And so, just kind of walking that tightrope wasn't really it wasn't difficult, but it made things more interesting for me as an actor to contemplate and then make choices, I guess.
It's probably my favorite scene, so I'm just saying it worked. Peter, for you?
I'm not sure difficult, but just sort of made me still try and figure. I'm still trying to figure it out. The final scene, Cyrano knows he's going to die. He doesn't know at what moment, but he has a strong sense that he is going to maybe die in front of Roxanne, and he still can't tell her. I mean, he's basically it's very he's his skin is as thin as it's gonna get. He's as vulnerable as he's ever gonna be. He's basically telling her. He's telling everything, but he's still denying that he's telling her. So just how to get your head around that as a person who is an actor who doesn't really have a problem speaking his mind, and perhaps has told people that he loves them and they've run away. I have the opposite problem that Cyrano has.
You do?
Because I'm an actor, inherently you have the opposite problem.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So just that sort of challenge of a guy that
Who
he's
did you say you loved and ran away?
just getting right to that edge, and still, even when he just not jumping off, really. It's beautifully written.
Yeah.
It's beautifully framed, and I just had to figure out my challenge within it.
I think we have time for a couple quick questions from the audience. If you have one, just raise your hand. Try to get to. I can't. Oh, you're right down there. I'm sorry.
I'll project my voice.
Thank you.
Yes, fantastic movie. I just have a question. I've always wondered about musicals, especially period.
Oh, Jesus. No, I have no idea what that was, but I'll take the blame.
Yeah, just period pieces, and especially specifically for you, Haley. Please describe your experience singing at such high notes in that.
Hitting the high notes in a tight dress. This I assume that was for Haley.
Well, it was much easier than projecting those high notes 8 months pregnant on stage in Connecticut with these guys. Yes. So, yeah, not much room for the diaphragm with a 8-pound baby inside of you. Actually, there are different corsets. There's just, practical answers for, how to, especially with I Need More. There was a different corset, so, it was expandable. Yeah.
Wow, they make them expandable?
Yeah, there's just, some elastic to accommodate.
That doesn't defeat the purpose of a corset?
Well, we weren't going for looks, I guess.
I think we have time for one more. If there's one, sure, way over there.
I've always loved this story because it is sort of a self-standing masterpiece. It's famously known not to be allied with different genres or movements in French literature. It seems to me that people often feel free to take a lot of creative liberties with this story. Would you agree with that? And how do you think your choices will impact people's perception of this?
Is
Very well-known story.
this more for Erica or Erica and Joe, I guess? Yeah.
Well, yes. I mean, I guess like the Steve Martin, the movie Roxanne, or even you could say You've Got Mail. There are lots of retellings of this story. I was trying to really honor the original, but kind of make it modern and really make it sing. I listened to the Desner's music when I was adapting it, and I tried to make it very, very, very spare, so that it was just kind of the essential pieces. Like, if it was a 14-line poem about love, I tried to say, look at what is the absolute pure heart of what is being said, and then with Matt Berninger, who wrote the lyrics, allow the songs to become the kind of more exquisite, elevated poetry of the piece. And I guess in terms of what I hope people would take away in terms of the value of the original versus this, I feel like if more people become interested in the play and find Rostand and read it and seek it out, I think that would be an amazing thing. And I feel like if it allows more people to relate to the character, the nose to me is like a conspiracy between actor and audience. It allows you to laugh at the thing that he says he finds painful, because ultimately you know that it's not paining the person at all. And originally my idea was to remove that and not have him talk about it, but never, as Peter said, to have his height be a stand-in for it, but to just have it be unsaid. And in that way, I hope that we can all find our own thing, our own nose, the thing that we feel is unlovable about us, that we like to hide, or we think that nobody will be able to see past. And I hope that that's what people take from it or see in it ultimately.
Joe, what about for you? Why does everybody look upset when I call on them? Or not upset, but like struck.
Jet lag. It's jet lag.
Jet lag. Sort
no,
of.
I think Erica said it all. I think
Yeah.
Erica's answered that question, really. I think that was the writer's question.
I mean, no, I mean, you know, you have done such an amazing job of taking classic stories and basically doing the best versions of them. Was it intimidating to take on something like Cyrano, knowing how beloved it was and, you know, getting to put your own twist on it?
No, I was a bit intimidated by the balcony scene.
Yeah.
Because I had to get it right, because it's such an iconic scene. But no, I'm lucky that I'm dyslexic and didn't, you know, I don't have this kind of. I don't know. I came to reading quite late. And I get to educate myself through the process of making films, and that's all I'm doing really. I'm just learning stuff, and I don't have anything to. I make films not about what I know, but about what I want to know, and that's an exciting process for me. There are as many different versions of a book as there are readers, and all I'm doing is making an adaptation of or I'm not even an adaptation, I'm making the film that happened in my head as I read, or, you know, I read that book. And people will respond to it. You know, I try and leave enough space for people to project their own feelings and take from it what they need to take from it. What, you know, it's in between the frames that's interesting. You know, we create. Actually, I don't know if we do any more, but with projected film, we create the moving image. You know. With the persistence of vision, and so I believe in that. I don't feel a weight of responsibility, because it's just one iteration. You know, there'll be other versions of Cyrano, just as there will be other versions of Pride and Prejudice.
But they won't be better.
You know, Pride and Prejudice and Zombies was pretty good.
No, it's not.
So.
I worked on it, I can say that.
You did?
I did, yeah.
What did you do on that?
We'll talk backstage, yeah.
So yeah, I don't feel like this massive weight of responsibility, really. It's just about learning, you know.
Well, I want to remind everyone, this movie will actually be opening December 17th for a week in Los Angeles. Please spread the word. It is such a special film before it opens wide. And also the soundtrack is now available. So please go out and purchase that. It's such great music. Thank you all for being here. Thank you all for being such great guests.
Thank you.